you, Mr. Toastmaster. Fellow Toastmasters, by a show of hands, who here has ever felt stressed? Okay, see, we are not alone in this. In fact, according to the American Psychological Association's 2014 report, Stress in America, 75% of Americans reported having at least one symptom of stress in the previous month. I wasn't polled for this study, but as you can see, I would have been included in that, and so would everyone here probably. It's easy to identify the things in our lives that stress us out. I stress about work, I stress about money, I stress about eating healthy, I stress about not exercising enough, and this week I stressed about writing a speech about stress. Fellow Toastmasters, all of this stress in my life is stressing me out, and I want to do something about it. So I decided to look up what stress meant and how I could get rid of it. I'd never really thought too much about what stress was before. I knew it had something to do with your brain, and I'd heard the term cortisol being thrown around, talked about it being a stress hormone. But beyond that, I didn't really know what the concrete definition was. It turns out that I'm not alone in this. According to Hans Sale, the scientist who coined the term stress in 1936, everyone knows what stress is, but nobody really knows. I looked through roughly a dozen different websites trying to find this definition of stress, and what I found instead was that none of them were the same definition. And in fact, lots of these websites said there's not really one definition for stress. But there were some similarities, and when I broke it down to the most basic level, I realized that really stress is your brain and your body's way of dealing with different experiences, which can be both positive or negative. Okay, I understand the negative experiences part of stress. When I was in college, I developed what I called the finals week eye twitch. Every semester, around finals, as soon as I would start thinking about it or I'd be in the library studying, I could feel my eyes start to twitch. And I thought it was the most noticeable thing in the world, and I was so embarrassed by it. And then I graduated college and found out it's no longer the finals week eye twitch, it's just my eye twitch when I'm stressed. When I was doing my master's degree, I ended up getting a foot injury. And I went to several doctors, had x-rays done, nothing was wrong with it. The day after I submitted my final paper, my foot pain was gone. Again, my body was reacting to stress in an unusual way, and I hated my body for it. What I didn't get from my definition was this idea of positive stress. As you can see from this, it's a little bit blurry, and I apologize for that. But when you're stressed out, you basically go through this curve. And when you have some stress at the beginning, it actually helps you become more productive because there's a release of cortisol and adrenaline in your body. And then you get this peak comfort zone right here where you're actually doing really well and being very productive. But you can see very quickly, after you reach your peak, it goes downhill really quickly. And when it goes downhill, you start to have different problems medically. Stress can affect all parts of your body. It can lead to different medical conditions such as allergies, asthma, depression, skin disorders, even high blood pressure and heart attacks. Stress is not something that we should be taking lightly, and it's something that many people need to cut out of their lives. The first step that I've found in doing so is pinpointing what exactly it is that is causing you stress. So there's different kinds of stress. The first one is called survival stress. This one is tied to your fight or flight response. When your body senses that you're in danger, it sends a pump of adrenaline through your body so you know exactly what you need to do to be able to protect yourself. Next one is internal stress. I am extremely guilty of internal stress. This is caused by overthinking things or worrying about things that are outside of your control. This one's kind of difficult to get rid of because you have to get outside of your own head first. Next one, environmental stress. This is caused by external stimuli. Things like being in a really crowded area and getting anxiety, or being around a lot of noise, or getting pressure from family or friends. And finally, perhaps the most common, is fatigue and overwork. This kind of stress builds up over time and is often a much harder type of stress to combat. It's often caused by working too long in the workplace or home, and if you have poor time management skills, it becomes even worse. There are lots of ways to get rid of stress. Some are better than others. This is probably not the best one. Some other ways that people cope with stress that aren't necessarily healthy are through overeating or undereating, smoking or drinking, binge watching TV or sitting in front of a computer screen for hours, or even relying on different medications or pills to help them relax. So let's look at some ways that are actually good. The best way I found: identify what's making you stressed out, understand why it's making you stressed out, and then shrink that problem or make it go away. Unfortunately, that's not so easy either. According to the same poll by the American Psychological Association, approximately 60% of Americans who identified as being stressed last year were stressed because of work. I know that's one of my big stressors, but I can't walk up to my boss and be like, I've been working really hard, so why don't you start paying me 6 figures, but the hours, those aren't working either. So how about you cut them in half, give somebody else my workload? Yeah, we don't have the luxury for that. So let's think about some realistic ways that you can kind of eliminate some stress. Everybody's different, so these may not work for you, but they might. Unplugging from media. People who tend to consume more media are generally unhappier than people who do not. Eating healthier foods. If you go home after a long day and you head straight for the junk food, you're actually doing yourself a disservice. Foods that are high in omega-3 fatty acids are actually helpful to reduce stress in your life. Get moving. Studies show that if you exercise for 30 minutes, at least 3 times a week, you're more likely to be able to deal with stress. And finally, my personal favorite, play with a furry friend. Studies show that people who own pets are more likely to have higher self-esteem and better overall general health. Fellow Toastmasters, those may not work for you, but I challenge you to find the things that do. Let's stop stressing out about stress, and instead tell the stress in our lives that it's time to break up and celebrate our freedom. Thank you.